A couple times throughout this series, we have discussed the YouTube animator FilmCow. The reason he comes up so often is honestly that when I was growing up, he was one of my favorite content creators, and I'm still fascinated by his work today. Anyways, I wanted to bring him up again so we could discuss a very memorable video that I recall watching several times throughout my childhood. That being, Charlie the Unicorn 2, Return to the Leopleurodon.
Hello?
Charlie! Charlie!
My name isn't Charlie. Would you please stop calling me? My name is Tom!
When Charlie the Unicorn first came out and started spreading through the internet like a wildfire, there was this peak period in time where no one really understood who had made it. And that is when this video managed to be released. Today it has close to 4 million views, and while it's pretty obviously not legitimate, at the time a very young and very gullible Quinton was somewhat close to being fooled by it. It should be noted that they do not spell Leopleurodon correctly in the title.
Hey ladies.
Charlie!
Right.
Charlie!
As a FilmCow fan, it's sort of fascinating how many elements of the Charlie the Unicorn series this sequel managed to get entirely wrong just because it only had the first one to base itself off of. For instance, the pink and blue ponies are referenced as girls and are talked about as if they're Charlie's exes. Charlie at some points gets in contact with other unicorns, and you also gotta love these proportions. It's like they're all basketball players. The reason I've decided to take this video out of its deep internet hibernation is I had this idea to combine my two most popular series into one video, Knockoff November and Fallen Titans. Basically, in this video, I want to go through the history of YouTube and talk about a few examples of knockoff channels coming into existence. This is partially going to be an excuse to talk about a few channels that were important to the early history of YouTube but are still around today, so they aren't fallen. And it's going to give us a chance to bring into discussion where the line is between homage and ripoff. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Fallen Titans. In 2004, a man named James Rolfe began recording a series of comedy videos making fun of games published on the Nintendo Entertainment System. Each episode would feature his character reviewing a game, nitpicking every aspect that he really could, and becoming extremely enraged about it. The joke being, of course, that these games were several decades old at this point, and getting that upset over them wasn't really justified. Bad NES Games, later the Angry Nintendo Nerd and then the Angry Video Game Nerd, is arguably the most influential gaming series on the entire internet. More than that, it's probably one of the earliest notable examples of a viral review series that focused on the comedy of a central character above everything else. What works best about this series is its focus on games that are often infamous for being far too meticulous and rigid. NES games can often feel like those old treasure maps you see on TV that lead through all sorts of ridiculous trials. They were extremely hard to figure out and beat. And because of that, there was this great mystery around what you would get at the end. A regular nerd video would lead you through the adventure of a difficult game, and would usually show you the end of that journey with a few laughs along the way. The earliest episodes of AVGN are my favorite. I think it's partially because this was before he had fully adapted the angry part of his persona, so instead of screaming at the top of his lungs and seeming unnecessarily pissed about everything, he just seemed like mildly peeved about the fact that he was doing all of this.
Oh boy, I hate this game. I mean, it makes me want to kill myself. He has, it gotta be like absolutely still, and if you touch an enemy, you fly in the opposite direction. I hate this game, but why am I playing it? Just stay away. Don't even touch it.
I like to call this era the ASMR video game nerd. The biggest quirk of James's series at the time was his character's tendency to go on profanity-prominent list-like rants where he would compile and combine various sailor phrases in very eccentric ways.
I'd rather drink diarrhea vomited out of a buffalo's anus.
I'd rather have a fucking buffalo take a diarrhea dump in my ear.
I mean, I'd rather eat snot and diarrhea vomited out of a buffalo's dick. It sucking fucks, it fucking sucks, it fucking blows.
What a shitload of fuck.
To be completely honest, given that his show was the starting point to more than 10 years of trial and error and evolution, both on the part of James and the people inspired by him, a lot of his early work can only be described as charmingly passé.
Oh look, I got a bowling ball. Remember that in the movie? Remember when Marty goes around throwing bowling balls at people? Whose idea was this? What were they thinking?
What I'm trying to get at is that AVGN being the first of its kind means that it's very hard to gauge what does and does not qualify as a knockoff. I would be completely out of my mind to sit here and tell you that every blurred or irritated gamer or film reviewer sitting in front of a camera screaming and exaggerating minor details is somehow ripping off this series, because this series is basically the equivalent to the invention of lined paper. Saying that every angry gamer is trying to be James Rolfe is like saying that every racist gamer is trying to be JonTron. However, from the starting point, there were certainly quite a few examples of people who copied James' formula without really changing much. Stylistically, these shows had very similar intros to The Angry Video Game Nerd. They mostly all reviewed NES games, but most controversially, they would often cover many of the same games, bring up the same points, and make the same jokes.
Talk about a shitload of shit.
These guys would pick up the same tools that they had just seen someone else use to make something long-lasting and iconic, and they would use them in all of the wrong ways. A game being challenging would always be posed like a gigantic flaw, anything that's illogical or not like the source material would be posed like a critique, and huge chunks of the video would often end up being filled with an extremely embarrassing plotline that has nothing to do with the review. I'm honestly really intrigued by these channels, because in trying to make content that criticizes, they've accidentally made something like the webcast equivalent to an Ed Wood film. These are reviews that are so bad that they are good. So ineptly made that when I watch them, I laugh at the creator, not with him.
Your mission if you choose to accept it. Famous words, but it's really misleading. I mean, they really don't give us a choice in the matter because you can't choose not to accept it. And they'll tell you that they've broken out of jail and kidnapped your friend Annie. So now it begs the question, why does Mikey have to rescue her? Doesn't this town have any police officers to do this kind of work?
What is this bullshit? 2 cats? Why not 3?
The most infamous out of all of these was, of course, the Irate Gamer.
Is it possible for Mission Impossible to possibly be a good game? Possibly. But absolutely not! This game sucks ass!
The show was created by Chris Borres as something to show to his friends and not really anything else. Because of this, he felt that he could borrow style from other creators without it being a big problem. This is something a lot of YouTubers go through. When you're small, you don't take the idea of content theft seriously, and you just borrow from wherever you can. Then, as you gradually gain an audience, you find your own voice and style and move away from the people you've copied. His channel and his content went largely unnoticed until YouTube decided to feature him, making him one of the first reviewers to ever be featured on YouTube, as well as catapulting him from 200 subscribers to around 10,000. He would continue to be supported by the YouTube platform, and ended up producing more content without ever really acknowledging where he had gotten most of his ideas. In short, the Irate Gamer is a content creator who should have gone unnoticed, but YouTube itself scooped him up and continued to support him above all others, making him one of the most popular reviewers on early YouTube. Given that his content was so extremely unoriginal, this made him very unpopular in the reviewer scene.
What do you think of the Irate Gamer?
Answer it as quickly as I can. I have no reason to answer it. I mean, he pretty much pretends that I don't exist, so why would I even need to say anything about it? I don't realize what that does.
But YouTube support wasn't really enough in the long run, and eventually he fell into obscurity for one simple reason. The Angry Video Game Nerd is a good series, and the Irate Gamer is not. I think it's really interesting how this beef started on early YouTube and how these creators evolved in such a unique way, but I almost didn't include this one because you guys take this stuff way too seriously. Guys, look at me. Look at me, okay? You looking at me? It doesn't matter. Don't get so worked up about something this meaningless, and don't harass people over petty drama from 10 years ago. Okay? Anyways, if these AVGN ripoffs gave us anything positive, it was the funniest episode of Game Grumps of all time.
Would you say it reminds you of anything, Aaron? Maybe a certain type of feces of some kind?
Yeah, it reminds me of a pile of diarrhea and dick farts. I pissed a cactus out my dick. Jeez, what were they thinking?
So in my travels across YouTube in preparations for this video, I discovered one channel which certainly seems to fit the bill of this discussion. That being FanMadeStuff. FanMadeStuff is a channel essentially dedicated to experimentation in imitation. Almost every video they've uploaded is either a parody of something that is already popular and in existence, or something more of a playful fan production. If you've ever seen any of their stuff, it's likely from their literal faux epic rap battles of history video, which has garnered more than 13 million views. The production that this channel goes through is incredible. They managed to legitimately create something that looks and feels exactly like what they're trying to copy. However, quite sadly, they've become most infamous for not being good at rapping.
I brought an RT when he had been jailed. Let's put a smile on that face that just got raped.
Wow. No.
You little bastard! No one even remembers your name, now you're just a mask! Not even an idea!
None of this rhymes.
Wanna see a magic trick? Here is your ass, and here's my dick! Why so serious while I'm ripping your anus? Feel the fear in your stomach when it's just my penis!
Hey Guy Fawkes. Oh hey Joker, what's up? Oh, I'm gonna force sex upon your buttocks. Oh. Don't do that. Clearly these guys are French, and their rapping skills are limited by the fact that English isn't their first language. But I'm mainly just impressed by their incredible knack for production values, writing, and anything that has nothing to do with rapping.
Admettons que cette ligne droite représente le temps. Ici, le présent, 2015, là, le futur, et là, le passé. En amont de ce point, quelque part dans le passé, le temps a infléchi sa course selon cette tangente, créant le 2015 dans lequel nous nous trouvons, différent de celui présent dans le film.
Ah, et donc ça expliquerait pourquoi eux, ils ont des voitures volantes et nous des iPhones.
Précisément.
A lot of it is certainly hit and miss, but I partially think that's the cultural divide. Like, maybe if I grew up in France, I would think this was the greatest channel I'd ever seen. I don't know. I guess I wanted to bring these guys up because I wanted to personally commend them on their incredible attempts to paying homage to other people's work, but also partially because it's fascinating and terrifying that a channel can have a viral hit that big and can still garner almost no following from it whatsoever. Basically, these guys make content which is up to a somewhat consistent standard, but the only time they're assured good views is when they make thumbnails imitating other YouTubers. And I just can't imagine what that's like. To end this video, I wanted to do another quick analysis of yet another critical channel, that being CinemaSins. I wish I had a lot of words of praise for CinemaSins, but I honestly don't. If the angry video game nerd popularized nitpicks for comedy in reviews, CinemaSins popularized nitpicks disguised as real film analysis in film reviews. They are a soulless vessel which exists with the sole purpose of overtaking the algorithm, a film review series which focuses not on making criticisms, but having complaints. It doesn't matter if it's Manos the Hands of Fate or Toy Story 2. Every complaint a rant, every rant a ding, every movie 1,000 dings, every 1,000 dings a clickbaity video. It is thus not surprising that a series designed to apply to almost anything can have its brand copied and pasted by any person to any topic without any real sacrifice to the quality. First of all, the actual creators of CinemaSins have split their channels numerous times in failed attempts to market off of the elementary nature of their own content. That's how we got brand sins and music video sins. I'm happy to say that neither are doing too well. Then on the fan spectrum end of things, you got your basics. There's Series Sins, which apparently analyzes individual TV episodes. TV Sins, which does the exact same thing. You got your My Little Pony Sins, your Doctor Who Sins, and CinemaSins. CinemaSins is a channel dedicated entirely to making CinemaSins videos about CinemaSins videos.
Starting with the climax cliche. Coincidentally, starting with the climax is the working title for my sex tape.
Climax is a sex word, so you should definitely make a sex joke there. It'll definitely make everyone watching laugh. Which, by the way, is the title of my sex tape.
Okay. I basically did this part of the video because I wanted to talk about a channel that is definitely a knockoff, but still sort of makes me smile. That being Cinema Wins. So you know how in CinemaSins they'll go through a movie and just stop it every once in a while to talk about something that doesn't really change your viewing experience? Well, Cinema Wins is the same thing, except instead of stopping to talk about something that some geek in the audience cares about and you don't, Cinema Wins will point out a detail in the filmmaking that actually you might not have noticed and really add something to the experience.
Bionicle Man, 2 Shades of Blay. Adding to what they accomplished in the Lego movie, this Snorri-cam selfie shot showcases the imperfections in the Lego pieces from the bright flash, and they also added a bit more head movement to the Lego Men this time around. Like, did their bent legs turn into traffic cones to convey a bent knee? Man, talk about sticking to your own rules when no one else would even notice.
Now, it's still not like real film analysis, but I legitimately think that taking the pretense away from being negative for the sake of comedy and pushing it towards being perceptive for the sake of praise legitimately adds something to the concept which is entirely missed on the series that they're riffing on here.
The detail that had to go into this city. It's all 3D models, no matte paintings. Ugh, just more examples of how much they care. Things that are in frame for one frame that were painstakingly created by digital artists.
It's like wholesome and cute, and it's by far the greatest YouTube knockoff I have ever come across. If there's anything that I would want you to take away from this video, it's that taking inspiration from your peers is no sin by any means. There's nothing new under the sun, and I legitimately believe that as long as you continue to strive to discover what makes you you and what makes the heart of your content different from everyone else's, you'll eventually find your way and make something awesome. I've been Quinton Reviews, and that's all you need.